The Whispering Forest and the Lost Star. Once upon a time, in a land where the moonlight painted the trees silver and the stars danced across the night sky, there was a magical forest known as the Whispering Forest. It was called so because the trees, leaves, and even the flowers whispered secrets of the past to anyone who listened closely. Some said the forest held memories of forgotten kingdoms, while others believed it was alive with ancient spirits. In the heart of the forest lived a little girl named Lyra. She was no ordinary child. Her hair shimmered like spun gold, and her eyes mirrored the deepest shades of twilight. Lyra had lived in a small wooden cottage with her grandmother ever since she could remember. Her grandmother, wise and kind, often told her tales of the forest and its wonders. "There's a star that lives in this forest," her grandmother would say as she tucked Lyra into bed. "Not in the sky, but hidden among the trees. It fell long ago and has been lost ever since. They say whoever finds it will be granted a single wish, one that comes straight from the heart." Lyra was enchanted by the idea of the lost star. Every night as she lay in bed, she wondered where it could be and what she might wish for if she ever found it. One evening, as the moon rose high and the forest shimmered under its glow, Lyra decided she was brave enough to search for the star. She packed a small satchel with a lantern, a piece of bread, and a tiny bell her grandmother had given her, saying it would ward off the forest's mischievous spirits. With her heart full of courage, Lyra stepped into the woods. The Whispering Forest was unlike anything Lyra had seen before. By day, it was a place of sunlight and birdsong, but by night, it transformed into a world of shimmering light and soft murmurs. The trees glowed faintly, their bark etched with silvery runes, and tiny fireflies hovered in the air like sparks of magic. As she walked deeper into the forest, Lyra heard the trees whispering around her. Some murmurs sounded like gentle encouragement, while others carried a hint of warning. She followed a winding path that seemed to appear before her, illuminated by the soft glow of the trees. After what felt like hours, Lyra reached a clearing. In the center stood an ancient oak, its trunk so wide that it would take 10 people holding hands to encircle it. Its branches reached high into the sky, and at its base was a small hollow. Inside, something glimmered faintly. Lyra's heart leaped. Could it be the lost star? She approached cautiously, her lantern casting a warm glow. As she knelt by the hollow, a soft voice spoke. "Who dares to disturb my slumber?" Lyra jumped back, startled. From the shadows emerged a fox with fur as white as snow and eyes like liquid gold. It was no ordinary fox. It seemed to radiate an otherworldly energy. "I'm sorry," Lyra stammered. "I didn't mean to disturb you. I'm looking for the lost star." The fox tilted its head, studying her. "Many have sought the star, but it is not so easily found. Tell me, child, why do you seek it?" Lyra hesitated. She hadn't thought about what she would say. "I don't want anything for myself," she finally replied. "I want to use the wish to help my grandmother. She's growing older, and I want her to be happy and healthy forever." The fox's golden eyes softened. A selfless heart, it murmured. Very well. I will guide you, but the journey will not be easy. The fox led Lyra deeper into the forest, through twisting paths and over bubbling streams. Along the way, they encountered many strange and magical creatures. A family of glowing moths that lit their path, a mischievous sprite who tried to steal Lyra's bell, and a wise old owl who offered cryptic advice. The star is hidden where the moonlight kisses the earth, the owl had said. Lyra pondered these words as they continued their journey. Finally, they reached a hidden glade where a small pond shimmered like liquid silver. In its center was a single stone, and resting atop it was the lost star. It pulsed with a soft golden light, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. Lyra approached the pond, but as she stepped closer, the waters began to ripple. From the depths rose a figure made entirely of starlight. It was beautiful and otherworldly, with eyes that seemed to hold the entire universe. "Why have you come?" the figure asked, its voice like a melody. Lyra took a deep breath. "I've come to find the star so I can make a wish for my grandmother." The figure studied her for a long moment. "Your heart is pure, child," it said. "But know this, the wish you make will not only affect you, but the forest and all who dwell within it. Choose wisely." Lyra thought of her grandmother, of her kind smile and the warmth of her hugs. She thought of all the stories her grandmother had told her, of the love and care she had given her every day. "I wish for my grandmother to live a long and happy life," Lyra said, her voice steady. The figure smiled, and the star began to glow brighter. Its light enveloped Lyra, filling her with warmth and peace. When the light faded, the star was gone, and the figure had vanished. "Your wish has been granted," the fox said. "Now it's time to return home." When Lyra returned to the cottage, the first rays of dawn were breaking through the trees. Her grandmother was waiting for her on the porch, her eyes twinkling with joy. She looked younger, healthier, and happier than Lyra had ever seen her. From that day on, Lyra and her grandmother lived many wonderful years together. The forest, too, seemed brighter, as if it had been renewed by Lyra's selfless wish. And though Lyra never saw the lost star again, she often felt its warmth in her heart, a reminder of the magic that kindness and love can bring. And so, they lived happily ever after. Although Lyra's wish had been granted and her grandmother was happier and healthier than ever, Lyra couldn't stop thinking about the lost star. What had happened to it? Where had it gone after it vanished? And why had the fox, the owl, and all the magical creatures seemed so invested in her journey? One day, as Lyra and her grandmother sat by the fire, her grandmother turned to her with a curious look. "Lyra," she said softly, "you've been quiet lately. Is something on your mind?" Lyra hesitated. She didn't want her grandmother to worry, but her questions were too big to keep to herself. "Grandma," she began, "what happens to magic after it's used? The star disappeared after granting my wish. Do you think it's gone forever?" Her grandmother smiled knowingly. "Magic never truly disappears, Lyra. It transforms. It finds new shapes, new places, new purposes. The star may no longer shine in the forest, but its magic is still out there, perhaps closer than you think. Lyra pondered her grandmother's words late into the night. As she drifted into sleep, she dreamed of the fox, the owl, and the figure of Starlight. In the dream, they whispered one word: return. The second journey. The next morning, Lyra woke with a strange sense of urgency. The forest was calling her again. She packed her satchel, this time including a small flask of honey for the mischievous sprite, a warm scarf for the wise owl, and an extra lantern. As she stepped into the forest, it felt different from before. The trees seemed to hum with anticipation, and the whispers were louder, more distinct. She followed the path that had once led her to the star, but this time it twisted and turned in unexpected ways, as if the forest itself were guiding her. After hours of walking, she reached a familiar clearing, the ancient oak. To her surprise, the white fox was waiting for her, its golden eyes gleaming with recognition. "You've returned," the fox said, its voice tinged with curiosity. "Why?" "I think the star isn't gone," Lyra replied. "I feel like it left something behind, and I want to understand." The fox nodded solemnly. "You are wise beyond your years, child. Come, there is something you must see." The pool of memories. The fox led Lyra to a part of the forest she had never seen before, where the trees grew so tall their tops disappeared into the sky. At the center of this grove was a crystal clear pool, its surface perfectly still. "This is the pool of memories," the fox explained. "It holds the echoes of all magic that has ever passed through the forest. Look into it and you may find what you seek." Lyra knelt by the pool and gazed into its depths. At first, she saw only her own reflection, but then the water began to ripple and glow. Images appeared, visions of the star's fall, of the starlight figure smiling at her, and of the wish she had made. But then, the visions changed. She saw the star's light spreading through the forest, touching every tree, every flower, every creature. She saw the fox, the owl, and even the mischievous sprite glowing with that same golden light. The fox's voice broke through her thoughts. "When you made your wish, the star's magic did not vanish. It became part of the forest. Your kindness, your selflessness gave the forest new life." Lyra's heart swelled with wonder. "So the star's magic is everywhere now?" "Yes," the fox replied, "and it has left you with a gift as well. Close your eyes and you will feel it." The gift of the star. Lyra closed her eyes as the fox instructed. At first, she felt only the cool breeze and the soft hum of the forest, but then a warmth spread through her chest, like sunlight breaking through clouds. She felt connected to everything around her: the trees, the animals, even the tiniest blades of grass. When she opened her eyes, the forest seemed even more vibrant, its colors richer and its whispers clearer. "You have been touched by the star's magic," the fox said. "You are now a guardian of this forest, Lyra. Its whispers will guide you, and its magic will flow through you." Lyra felt both humbled and honored. "What do I do now?" "Live as you always have," the fox said with a gentle smile. "But remember, the forest is part of you now, and you are part of it. Protect it, listen to it, and it will always protect you in return." a life of wonder. From that day forward, Lyra's life changed in small but wondrous ways. She could understand the whispers of the trees and the songs of the birds. When the forest creatures were in trouble, they would come to her for help, and she always found a way to aid them. Her grandmother, though she didn't know the full extent of Lyra's new bond with the forest, often remarked on how happy and radiant Lyra had become. As the years passed, Lyra grew into a wise and kind young woman, beloved by all who knew her. The forest thrived under her care, its magic stronger and more vibrant than ever. And though she never saw the lost star again, she felt its presence in every leaf, every stream, and every breath of wind. And so Lyra's story became one of the many whispered tales of the forest, a story of a girl with a golden heart, a lost star, and a bond with the magical world that would never fade. In the small wooden cottage nestled at the edge of the whispering forest, Lyra grew more curious about her bond with the forest and its creatures. Every day she spent wandering its paths, learning its secrets, and deepening her connection. Her life was simple but filled with magic, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her story. One evening, as she sat by the fireplace with her grandmother, a strong wind swept through the trees outside, carrying an unusual sound, a low, melodic hum. It wasn't like the ordinary whispers of the forest. It was deeper, richer, and seemed to come from a place far beyond the trees. "What's that sound, Grandma?" Lyra asked. Her grandmother's face grew thoughtful. "That, my dear, is the song of the star. It only comes when the forest is calling for help." "Help?" Lyra's heart skipped a beat. "What kind of help?" Her grandmother didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood and retrieved an old leather-bound book from the shelf. Opening it carefully, she revealed a faded illustration of a star-shaped flower glowing in the moonlight. "This is the star flower," her grandmother said. "It is the heart of the forest's magic. If the song has begun, it may mean the star flower is in danger." Lyra leaned closer. "But why would it be in danger? And what can I do to help?" Her grandmother placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "You are the guardian of this forest, Lyra. The bond you share with it is unlike any other. If anyone can find the star flower and protect it, it's you." That night, Lyra packed her satchel once more, this time with supplies for a much longer journey: dried fruits, a water skin, her lantern, and the little bell her grandmother had given her. As the first light of dawn touched the trees, she set out, guided by the hauntingly beautiful song of the star. The whispering forest grew darker as Lyra ventured deeper into its heart. The trees became ancient and gnarled, their trunks twisted and covered in moss. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. As Lyra walked, the fox appeared again, its white fur shimmering faintly in the dim light. "You've heard the song," it said, falling into step beside her. "Yes," Lyra replied. "The starflower is in danger, isn't it?" The fox nodded gravely. "Something has awakened in the forest of shadows, a force that seeks to take the starflower's power for itself." "The forest of shadows?" Lyra had heard the name before in her grandmother's stories. It was said to be a place where sunlight never reached, home to creatures born of darkness and fear. The journey will not be easy, the fox warned. But remember, the forest is with you. Trust in its magic, and you will find your way. As they continued, the forest seemed to shift around them. The path became treacherous, with roots curling up to trip Lyra's feet and brambles snagging at her clothes. The whispers of the trees turned into anxious murmurs, as though they too feared what lay ahead. After hours of walking, Lyra and the fox reached the edge of a vast, shadowy expanse. The trees here were blackened and lifeless, their branches stretching like claws into the sky. In the distance, Lyra could see a faint, pulsing light, the starflower, glowing faintly amid the darkness. As they stepped into the shadows, a cold wind swept through the forest, carrying with it a voice that sent shivers down Lyra's spine. "Who dares enter my domain?" A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and cloaked in shadow. Its face was obscured, but its eyes burned like embers. It carried a staff made of blackened wood, and the ground seemed to wither beneath its feet. "I am Lyra," she said, summoning all her courage. "I've come to protect the starflower." The figure laughed, a hollow, echoing sound. "Protect it? Foolish child. The starflower's power belongs to me now. With it, I will command the magic of the entire forest." The fox stepped forward, its fur bristling. "You cannot claim what was never yours, keeper. The forest chose its guardian, and she stands before you now." The keeper sneered. "Then let her prove her worth." The keeper raised its staff, and the shadows around Lyra began to writhe and take shape. Creatures made of darkness emerged, their eyes glowing with malice. "You must face the forest's fears," the keeper said. "Only then will you understand its strength." Lyra's heart pounded, but she refused to back down. She closed her eyes and reached out to the forest, feeling its magic flow through her. The whispers of the trees grew louder, urging her forward. The first shadow creature lunged at her, but Lyra held up her lantern. Its light cut through the darkness, causing the creature to dissolve into mist. The second creature was larger, its form shifting and twisting as it advanced. Lyra remembered the bell her grandmother had given her and rang it. The sound was clear and pure, and the creature froze, its shape unraveling like a thread. One by one, Lyra faced the shadows, using the gifts of the forest to overcome them. Finally, only the keeper remained. "You are strong, child," it said, its voice softer now. "But strength alone is not enough. What would you sacrifice to save the starflower?" Lyra thought of her grandmother, of the life she had built at the edge of the forest. She thought of the magic that had become a part of her, and the bond she shared with every living thing in the woods. "I would give anything," she said, her voice steady, "because the forest is more than magic. It's home." The keeper studied her for a long moment before lowering its staff. The shadows began to recede, and the light of the starflower grew brighter. "You have passed the trials," the keeper said. "The starflower is safe, and the forest will remember your courage." The starflower bloomed fully as Lyra approached, its light spreading warmth and life through the forest. The trees straightened, their leaves regaining their vibrant colors, and the whispers turned into a joyous chorus. The fox smiled. "The forest owes you its life, Lyra, and so do I." When Lyra returned home, her grandmother greeted her with open arms. "You've done something incredible, my dear," she said, her eyes filled with pride. Lyra knew her journey was far from over. The forest would always need its guardian, and she would always be ready to answer its call. And so, Lyra's legend grew, a tale whispered by the trees and carried by the wind for generations to come. A light eternal years passed, and Lyra grew into a wise and gentle guardian of the forest. She devoted her life to tending its needs, helping lost travelers, healing wounded animals, and ensuring the balance of magic remained strong. The bond she shared with the forest became so deep that the trees would shift their branches to shield her from rain, the rivers would hum soothing melodies as she passed, and the creatures of the woods would gather near just to bask in her calm presence. One quiet evening, Lyra sat beneath the ancient oak where her journey had first begun. The white fox appeared beside her, its golden eyes now softer, reflecting a lifetime of shared adventures. "You've done well, Lyra," the fox said, its voice as gentle as a lullaby. "The forest is thriving because of you." Lyra smiled, brushing her fingers along the soft moss beneath her. "It's not just me. The forest and I have grown together, haven't we? We've taken care of each other." The fox nodded. "And now a new chapter awaits." Lyra tilted her head. "What do you mean?" The fox stepped closer, and for the first time its form shimmered with light, as if starlight itself had seeped into its being. "You are no longer simply a guardian, Lyra. You are becoming something more. The starflower's magic lives within you, and it is time for you to join its eternal light." A wave of understanding washed over Lyra. She had always felt the star's presence within her, a warmth that never faded. Now she realized what it truly meant. "Will I leave the forest?" she asked, her voice steady but soft. "No," the fox said. "You will become one with it, your spirit woven into its roots, its leaves, its very essence. You will be here forever, watching over the trees, the creatures, and all who enter these woods." Lyra closed her eyes, letting the words settle over her like a warm embrace. She felt no fear, only peace. "I'm ready." The fox touched its nose to her hand, and a golden light enveloped her. It was the same light she had seen in the starflower, the same light she had felt when she made her wish for her grandmother. It grew brighter and brighter until it filled the entire clearing, illuminating the ancient oak, the whispering trees, and the stars above. When the light faded, Lyra was gone, but the forest felt her presence everywhere. The oak's leaves sparkled faintly in the moonlight, and the whispers of the trees carried a new melody, a soft, soothing song of love, courage, and magic. From that day on, travelers who ventured into the Whispering Forest would often feel a warm breeze that seemed to guide them when they were lost, or see the faint glow of golden light among the trees. They spoke of a guardian spirit who watched over the forest, her presence as gentle and radiant as the stars. And so Lyra became part of the forest she loved, her light eternal, her story whispered through the leaves for generations to come.